They're required to give that to you before they leave?
I'm not sure about that. Certainly within a certain reasonable period of time, they have to give you.
It's not academic. The problem I see with this is I've seen cases thrown out where they had a search warrant, but then it has to be specific, so they came into the room, and then there was a small chest. And so they opened the chest to see what was in there, and they found something. And so there was a motion to suppress the evidence, but if there's nobody there to see what they're doing, then, like opening that chest, then you don't have a basis for filing a motion to suppress the evidence. So I think having somebody there, if not you, then an attorney or somebody watching them is important.
I agree. Looks like we've already gone over the time. Yeah. So the note says, too often they literally ransack, seemingly out of spite, and I would agree with that, and I'm afraid there's not a whole lot you can do about it at the time. If the search has exceeded the scope of the Fourth Amendment, or if it's been carried out in an unreasonable way, that's a basis for a civil lawsuit after the fact. But I would really not try to interfere with a police officer who's in the process of searching your home. I don't think that a lot of good can really come from it at the time. And that brings me to a couple final pointers that I wanted to make, and I'll go through these quickly, and I'm happy to stay late and answer questions because I know that we had an abridged amount of time. The first is that although there's plenty of reasons to dislike police officers and the institution of policing, I would try to maintain a cordial attitude when you're talking to police, because it really just never helps you to antagonize them. I think it makes it more likely that you're going to be arrested if you're at a questionable situation to begin with. And it's something that can hurt you if you go to trial. And although it's not a crime, it's something that looks bad. So it's legal, perfectly legal, to walk up to every cop that you see and just say, fuck you. You know, you want to do that, the First Amendment protects it. But if you're doing it in a context where you're arrested and you have someone on your jury who's like my grandma, who likes cops and doesn't like angry people who are associated with dissident causes, it's not going to look good. It's, you know, you can save it for another forum. Unless you're at an anti-police protest, you didn't leave the house with the intention of getting into a fight with a police officer. You came to advocate for another cause, and so just advocate for your cause, and you can find a venue for voicing your displeasure with the institution of policing later on. And I would say that goes for like other people on the street as well. You never know who you're talking to, what connections they have, whether they're going to call the police if you're rude to, say, the neighbors at a home protest or something like that. So why create an opportunity for yourself to look bad? Another thing is I would really strongly recommend that you not resist arrest or attempt to obstruct an arrest. There are lots of times when someone gets stopped by police officers, and ultimately the only thing that happens, the only charges that are filed against them are resisting arrest or obstructing charges. So a cop stops you, he doesn't have probable cause, but he says, hey, get over here, and you run away. First of all, you're probably going to end up getting caught. And second, if he didn't have anything against you, he's got your resisting or your obstructing now. It's not worth it. And legally, you don't have the right to resist physically an arrest unless you're in fear of your bodily safety, even if it's a completely illegitimate arrest. If you're just standing there, or you're leafleting or doing something else that's protected by the First Amendment, and the cop arrests you anyway and he's 100% wrong, if you try to like run away while he's handcuffing you, the resisting charge is still going to stick even if your other charges don't. Please file complaints against bad police officers. It's so important to do this. I hear people complaining a lot that their rights have been violated at a protest, that a cop who didn't know what they were talking about told them that they couldn't do something that they knew they were allowed to do, and they threatened them with arrest, and it was very unfair. Well, there's avenues for complaining about that. It might be a civil suit, but if it doesn't rise to that level, then they should still be complained about. The avenue for doing that in Olympia is called the Professional Standards Office. They're the Civilian Oversight Board of the Police Department. In Seattle, it's called the Office of Professional Accountability. And if you do this, first of all, the guy might get in trouble, which is good and deserved. Second, he might stop doing the thing that he was doing to you, to other people. And third, if he ever comes up in another lawsuit, it's really helpful for him to have a thick file of disciplinary complaints against him. You know, if I'm representing someone who was arrested at a protest by a cop who has a long history of assaulting people who protest, that looks really good. If it's a guy who has a pristine record, it's not as helpful. So even if you don't think that you're going to get anything out of it in that particular situation, it will probably help someone else down the line if you take a couple minutes to write a letter or make a phone call to your accountability board and let them know what the police officers in their community are doing. One last bit of advice, it is completely legal in the state of Washington to film police officers who are engaging in duties in a public forum.
Yes,
So,
that's right.
there's a Washington State Supreme Court case, it's State v. Flora, and it says that when a police officer is carrying out a public duty, he has no right of privacy and he can be filmed.
You can audio record them too.
You can
don't need
audio
their
record
permission,
too.
and you don't need to tell them.
Mm-hmm. And there's also a Ninth Circuit federal case that says that if a cop tries to arrest you or somehow otherwise violate your rights because you were filming them or audio recording them, that they don't have any immunity from suit as a sovereign. You'll hear the phrase sovereign immunity, that it's difficult to sue.
Are you serious?
Government.
They don't have qualified immunity
They do not
for that?
have qualified immunity for that. The case is
That's
Johnson
a federal
v.
case?
It's Ninth Circuit, Johnson v. Haw.
Okay.
So, you know, if you see a cop that's doing something wrong, go ahead and film them. If there's an arrest situation taking place, especially at a protest, and you want to be able to document exactly what happened in case there's any questions later on, perfectly legal and perfectly advisable to film cops. I think that's the end of my prepared talk. I'm happy to stay if anyone has any questions or wants my card. It's been a real pleasure chatting with you all, and thank you so much for coming.
There's a benefit tonight at downtown Olympia for the grand jury resistors.
What traditions?
No, that's at Lavoyer. I have flyers for it, so there's a benefit tonight. It's a concert. So if you want to help out people that are recently imprisoned for not giving information to the FBI and helping them do an investigation, then like come down and support them.
I would like your card.
Sure.
Do you have to present a license?
Here's the flyer.